This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome in alongside Roy Ogletree. And see, I'm nervous because, look, we've got a new setup here.
Yeah.
Jack built this table. He went, here's
From
the thing.
IKEA?
Here's the thing that Jack did.
Amazon.
He went into, you heard him, he went into the Amazon forest. He found wood in the Amazon, which I know is technically illegal.
Yeah.
He found, but he pretended
deforestation,
he pretended to be with a logging company.
Right.
And he stole just enough wood and then hiked back through the jungle and built this table from the Amazon, I'm told.
And boy, are my arms tired.
Exactly. No. So we have this table here. We think it looks more professional.
I would argue it does. It also it also gives us more angles and not the angle of, no offense, me being like cell phone bars over you. like we can have just more than the two boxes with this. And also you can see my poor posture up close.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
you want to see what I look like at a producing desk all day?
You should be proud of your height.
Oh, I am. I'm just saying, slowly but surely,
because
the neck is starting to
as I said, God loves you a little bit more.
I've oftentimes told myself that. Yeah.
Yes. So he loves you a little bit more than he loves me, fractionally.
Yeah.
Fractionally. Mm-hmm. There is this thing in the Bible where God loves all of his children equally. I think that genetics prove that that's not the reality.
Right.
I think there's some people like me that he made sure that he.
And it's like LeBron James, he loves way more.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So there's just those things. Mm-hmm. Or he gave me different skills I have yet to figure out how to apply to prove it. I don't know.
Be on your deathbed. Oh, no.
Yes. So
I just figured it out. I'm really good at math.
Yeah. So here we are, and there's a couple things to get to before we get to our main topic. Ollie Gordon got a DUI.
Shout out.
And I would guess, this is just me, he's supposed to come to Vegas next week. I would say that's off.
Really?
I would guess that's off. That's not going to happen. It's unfortunate. Hopefully this is an isolated incident, and thankfully nobody was hurt. But Ollie Gordon got a DUI, so there's going to be some type of suspension for that. You would think. I don't know. It may not be. And here's what I will warn people: I'm not going to pass judgment on a suspension like this because everybody does it differently, and nobody's figured out the one that's well, that's fair.
There's no NFL league mandate that he gets 4 games,
which something that college football needs to maybe do, that way.
Minor infractions, major infractions.
Yeah, exactly. They need to figure those things out and have somebody who can do that and be like, okay, well, this is a 2-game suspension, a 3-game suspension, or
but what stops the schools from being screw you? We're an autonomous thing.
That's why the autonomous thing needs a commissioner that would do these things.
Oh, right.
That way, so they don't have a situation where you just kind of leave it to the schools to, hey, do whatever you want.
Right.
Because there's going to be because they can always say, well, you don't know the whole details of all of it. And you're like, okay.
Look, this isn't the first athlete that will, or major, front-facing starting athlete that will drink and drive, and it won't be the last. Georgia has a lot of their own problem, not to cast blame, but you're seeing all this happen at Georgia too. I will say this. Most college towns, unless you're at the University of Slippery Rock, and even then, I'm sure you'd still have it. Yeah. There is Uber, guys.
That's where Rolling Rock's from. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I can't cast blame on anybody. I've been multiple places probably that I shouldn't have been in my past, but I'm just telling you, in multiple situations that I probably should have gotten out of in my past. I will tell you this. It is so much easier just to go home safely now than even when I was in college. Uber hadn't come to Waco yet. I'm just you had to scour the party to see if anyone had not drank. Are you you're searching for treasure? It's are you sober?
Yeah.
or you walked.
The fact that Uber or Lyft exist makes, to me, DUIs should be a thing of the past.
Yeah.
They really should be. I understand that you don't want to do surge pricing, and you can probably get drunk and be like $43.
Oh, man.
Guess what's more expensive? A lawyer.
Yeah. Your license being suspended.
And look, I'll tell you right now, if you find a lawyer for $40, not a good lawyer.
I don't think he's gonna. Yeah, I don't think he's gonna. Your Honor. Meh. I mean,
hey, who among us hasn't?
Yeah.
Right? Are you up to sit there and judge? Yes, I'm a judge.
Look, Ollie Gordon's a spectacular running back. I just same with ETN at Georgia.
Yeah.
Got to just get the Lyft, man. Get the Uber. Or a lot of these teams have started to have things in place to be, hey, call this coach and they will come get you.
They're not going to judge you.
No.
They're just going to pick you up and dump you in
I know
your,
NFL
in
teams
your
have
house.
this specifically where they will have like a concierge come and get you.
There is no excuse in the NFL. Even when you're not in the town.
Right.
Even when you're not in the town, if you just call the number, they'll just, and
there's a hotline, right, for NFL.
Picks up and he's like, yes. Hey, man, I'm in Vegas. I'm all messed up and I don't know where I am. All right, well, turn on your location. We'll send somebody to get you. Yeah. Don't worry about it. Don't drive.
Right.
Don't drive. Or hey, man, I'm really messed up. They'll do it. They're protecting their investment too. So it's silly to even think that these things still occur, but people make bad decisions. So, but anyhow, yesterday, Royden, was realignment day, and teams.
What happened?
Teams, outside of the Pac-12 teams, they're official on August 1st or 2nd, depending on their specific thing. So first of the month, next month, everybody's going to be where they are. But yesterday was realignment day, teams moving around, officially joining their new conferences. And I did a top 5, as I do at the end of every 365 Sports, about what Texas and OU need to get used to.
Or what the SEC needs to get
used to about Texas and OU. And I also had an exchange about horns down with somebody on Twitter. And I would like to go through those with you.
Yeah, I would love this.
Because
I love nothing more than stepping in it on the internet and then having to backtrack.
I was actually trying in this moment on Twitter particularly to pay Texas fans, real fans, because I know it's true about horns down. The real Texas fans, for the most part, couldn't care less about horns down. They don't get offended by it. They don't. What is now morphed into, they are trying to eliminate a chunk of the history about it. Yes, we know that it came from Mac Brown being mad because Texas got a penalty that Tech didn't. But then from that point on, it was never about that anymore, and that specific moment about it being called both ways. It morphed into a thing that became its own specific penalty. Mm-hmm. Greg Sankey chose to not comment on that yesterday, which he's going to have to in 2 weeks anyway, because it was a penalty in the Big 12. So he has to comment on it. And so I had this exchange
with Josh Pate?
It was with J.D. Pickell, who used to sit right across here, in a different manner, but he was here.
He's the more handsome version of me, but it's okay.
Yeah. That's actually why I called you first. I was like, hey, Roy, I'm doing this show. I need a JD stand-in.
Yeah.
And you're like, but I'm taller. And you're like, yeah.
I need any blonde guy. Get me a blonde guy.
Give me a blonde guy to stand in. Can you learn how to break down film? And he's like, I refuse to.
Yeah. What do I look like?
You said stand-in. What, you're gonna have to up my rate. So JD tweeted this. I don't even think Texas fans want horns down to be a penalty. To which I responded, I said, I think there's a disconnect between the fans and the powers that be there. The fans don't care, but it was created by the administration. And then censored horn response, no, it wasn't. It was created by when a Texas player got a penalty, and this is it. And then this guy, Roger Hodges, I said the pearl clutching was created by the administration, not the gesture. And he says, there's very little pearl clutching, nobody cares. Now let me stop here. I didn't say this, but if nobody cared, why are we talking about it?
Why was it a penalty?
Why are we talking about it? And I said it was a penalty in the Big 12, so someone cares. And then Roger Hodges responded. And Garrett, I'd like your response on this one. Okay. As a person, Garrett, you're a very well-read individual.
I try to be.
Yes, you read at least
many leather-bound books.
Well, I mean, Garrett reads at least 2 books a month, I would say, right?
Oh, at least. Like I read 5 this past week.
Whoa.
Yeah, well, because he was on vacation, and then he reads a lot. He reads tons of books.
You think you're better than me?
Yeah.
Come on, let's go.
Here's the difference between Garrett and I are both voracious readers. Garrett married another voracious reader.
Very much so.
I married someone who is not.
Well, it's me and my wife, but the opposite. She will go through. She'll go through a book in like a week, and I'm just like, the pig went to the farm. Yeah. And she's like, good job. Okay. Like I finish a book every 3 months.
So. All right, I'm just going to read this 3-sentence exchange. And you, as a person who's very well read, your wife is a matter of fact she's going to be an editor,
yes,
right?
She's going to school for publishing.
She's going to school for publishing. So, in very short order, she will be an editor and a publisher, and she'll be very good at this. So, just by the fact that you were there, I'm just highlighting this. Tell me in the context of what these 3 sentences are. There's very little pearl clutching. Nobody cares. I said it was a penalty in the Big 12, so someone cares. And then he responds, not any fan that I know, to which Garrett, isn't that what I was talking about?
That's exactly what this whole point is about, the fans and their disconnect. Like, they don't care. It's about the administration and everything. So he exactly answered his own thing while trying to dance around it.
The funny thing is to me that every fan that will reply to a Horns Down tweet, like a Texas bot account basically, or they have like 2 followers but they're like Hook'em 69 420.
Oh yeah.
And it's just like, their thing is like they want to tell you how much they don't care about the Horns Down being a penalty. Oh, I swear to God we don't care, man. I promise we don't care.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Really?
And look, one of the first people is a frequent viewer on our show, Paxton. He's one of our P1B1s or whatever you want to call him in the radio term. Paxton was like, I really don't care. And so hearing that from him and then like talking to other fans like that interaction with
you meet people in real life, they're like, I care less.
And so then I said, that was my original point. The fans don't care. The bosses at Texas clearly do, hence the disconnect. Here's his response. No, the weak-ass Big 12 leadership did. It's so stupid. So then I responded to, so the Big 12, and I normally don't do this on Twitter, but I
let it be.
I was just curious as to where this was going. So the Big 12, without Texas saying a word about it, just decided to do it. And then he goes on to repeat that. And I said, okay, so Texas did want it to be a penalty. No, Texas only wanted to be called both ways or neither. And then the bigwigs there took it so far as to institute a rule about it that really only applied to a specific gesture when they could have, let it go. And then somebody says, that's not what happened. And then he says, also, nobody ever uses any other team's hand signal in any way because it's frankly just boring. Texas is a lightning rod because it's Texas. We are used to that. And I was like, everyone mocks the Gators.
Yeah. I mean, the chomp, right.
Yeah, and he's like, but when Georgia and Kentucky are playing, they don't mock the Gators. And then I just kind of left it at that of, well, yeah, because the Gators have never made a deal about people doing the chomp to them.
Right.
So they don't care about that. The Horns made it a deal, so then it became a deal.
Sarcastic SEC chants.
Yeah.
The SEC made it a deal.
Right.
Yes.
Everyone outside the SEC does it to spite them.
Yes, exactly. Right. When you make it a deal, and that's the thing. And so this coincided, and this all happened before I aired the top 5. But it was done. It was in the can. It was done. So then I just decided to see how, like every morning I get up and see how our videos are doing, like what's working, what's not working, why isn't it doing. That's how you get better at things, Royden. Is you find out what's not working and do it. Garrett, you look every morning, don't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
I got to tell you what you don't do. You never read the comments.
So.
You read the comments.
I actually do. There's 116. Okay. But I actually do go through and read the comments. mostly just because I want to see if there's a mistake I've made, if something I need to correct, something I did wrong, something I was way off on. If a lot of people say the same thing, then I really need to look into that. If it's a one-off, then I'm just like, okay, not worried. Well, most of the comments about this they're split between Longhorn fans. So there were Longhorn fans who are like, oh, this is funny. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
And then there were the ones who are like, a Baylor boy is sad about being in a conference. And then
Known Baylor fan, Paul Catalina.
And then a couple of people were like, well, he went to Florida State. You know that, right? Like he just works there.
Right.
If I worked at NBC in New York, it doesn't mean I went to NYU.
No,
I could have gone anywhere.
Right.
So,
I mean, probably you went to NYU, but it's not for you to determine.
Yeah. And so there was a whole lot of this. And then, I didn't mention a thing about horns. Did I mention anything about horns down in that?
Not one time.
Not one time. I didn't mention anything about horns down in that particular video.
No, but you did mention cow coitus.
Yeah. Yes. Unwanted.
Yeah.
Cattle coitus as well. And so there were just so, many Longhorn fans that were so mad at me about it. And I admittedly grew up in an Aggie household. So yes, I have some preconceived biases, but I've done this job long enough. I know what's good and not good. And I'm telling you all these things that have happened. It is a unique thing among sports fandoms, and it is taken to the next level with a certain segment, a large segment, BU, of the Texas fans of whatever the administration tells us is what happened. And I can tell you that that's not true. They pretend they have nothing to do with the Big 12 ever having problems.
The state-run media out of UT is really good. The machine rolls along.
So if I had to ask anyone in this room why the Big 12 had its most problems, would you say because Tech or Oklahoma State or Kansas was not on the same page with everybody and wanted to do things unilaterally their way, or that Texas only wanted to do things their way?
I mean, yeah, there was a give and take to the whole Big 12 thing. It's like the Big 12 nearly disbanded the first time because Texas, nearly the whole history of it, everybody knows it, was wanting to bolt for the Pac-12.
Yeah.
And then A&M left and said, okay, well, we'll run things here. But then it was the constant flirt. So the Big 12 stayed around because Texas and Oklahoma were in the conference. I'll give them that. But it also was always teetering on the edge of a volcano because just maybe going to dip the toe in the hot lava of realignment every year.
Yeah.
Because they were I don't know if we like it here.
If you'll remember, several years before the eruption, of all of this, the Big 12 said that we're going to consider expansion. And they took in, proposals from Boise State and BYU and Houston and some of the schools that have actually wound up in the Big 12, they took in proposals from them. And then they were we didn't read anything we liked, so we're not going to.
Wasn't one of the reasons that Houston couldn't enter way sooner was because the University of Texas was we want a UT Houston campus?
Yeah, it was
something along that line.
Now, granted, this was Texas and Oklahoma together on this one.
Yeah.
As where David Barron led this charge, because David Barron, when he was the president of Oklahoma, liked to say things out loud. It didn't matter what the actual thing was. He used to be a senator, so he came from a job where the more you talk, the better you talk, the more you convince people oh man, he's working hard for us.
Right.
When in reality, the only metric of that is what bills did you pass? Mm-hmm. When did you do that? There's no political batting average. It's a thing that bothers me. I would like to know,
I mean, you can really get into the nitty gritty and see how many bills people actually co-sponsored or wrote. Yeah. And there's I think there's some websites that can compile that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an OPS average. It's not really a batting average.
They need an OPS. They need to break it down all the way through.
Yeah.
I think that's something that I should do in my spare time, of which I have very little. But he said things, and then Texas and Oklahoma didn't want expansion, so it didn't happen. And then they left and went to a bigger league, and then they had to expand. Bob Bowlesby said as much in front of the State House or Senate here when the Big 12 was about to fall apart.
Yeah.
And then, they rallied and expanded. It is funny to me how we can revise history. And here's what I'll tell you on horns down and all of this stuff. Good for Texas that they were able to cut their own path. Good for them. Like, they could. But to pretend like you're not the one causing problems when you're the one that is saying, well, we don't want this. And then the other teams are like, well, we would like it. And they're like, yeah, but we don't. And then, for years, the Big 12 had a commissioner. Bob Bowlesby wasn't necessarily like this. He was less of it. But they had a commissioner in Dan Beebe who basically just called up the Lost Dots and were like, hey, are you on the email chain? Yeah. What'd you think of all that they said? No. Okay. Bye, boss.
Gotcha.
I'll make sure. So it was rooted in everything. Nebraska, Missouri, Colorado, and A&M all left because of their relationships with Texas. That's what happened. Some to varying degrees than others. I don't think people even understand historically how much Nebraska hated it. And partly is because Nebraska ran the Big 8, and then Texas came in and was like, okay, no.
That's cute.
Yeah. We know you've been getting by with these gray shirt partial qualifiers. Yeah, we're not doing that. So, all those guys that you snuck in that,
Was the death nail that 2009 championship game probably a little bit?
Yeah, I think it was probably, the 1 second left.
Yeah, where they got to kick the field goal.
That was that, and then the game that they played against A&M when A&M was leaving too the next year.
Right.
But, it was just horribly officiated. I think Nebraska fans just decided, no.
Yeah.
This is turning.
A&M, I always will say that A&M left out of spite a little bit anyway.
So did Nebraska.
Yeah.
So did Nebraska. Because it hasn't, and we're going to talk about A&M and Texas in the next segment, how A&M squandered their opportunity to get any kind of real toehold in football. There's other things that they're equal or maybe even a little better than at Texas currently. But as far as football goes and what they could have done to really make the SEC work for them, clearly they didn't. That's the next segment. So I think that it's better for us to see everything holistically and not get so tribalistic about it because, Texas was a problem. But also everyone else is a problem because they couldn't stand up to Texas.
Yeah.
They just couldn't do it. So the Big 12 was caustic, and for a long time it was not a functional relationship. And it was due in large part because to Texas and a little bit less to Oklahoma, but mostly because Texas could unilaterally do things, and Oklahoma, whatever was good for Texas is usually good for Oklahoma. It's why they're going together. So
as much as they want to feign a rivalry.
Yeah, they're rivals, but they also Oklahoma's not stupid.
Yeah.
Oklahoma's also very smart and to let and I would compare this in the ACC right now to Florida State's doing the Texas thing, right? Clemson's kind of doing the Oklahoma thing, although that maybe a little bit more out front because they're suing too. But Oklahoma kind of would let, especially post David Barron, would kind of let Texas be the well, this is how we see things.
Yeah.
And they would be like, okay. And they just kind of sit in the background and let Texas be the bad guy and then capitalize on well, if we're going to benefit from this too.
Look, just Texas, Oklahoma, the biggest institution in that state. But Texas can bear the brunt of whatever negative. It just rolls off like water off a duck's back off of Texas, any sort of negative press or whatever. It's just y'all are ruining the Big 12. So?
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you, okay.
Yeah.
All right, we're trying to get better deals. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to do what's best for number one, and we're the number one brand in the sport in the United States.
Yeah. So, and look,
like it or not, deal with it. That's kind of been Texas' approach to the entire thing.
But you know what? Here's the thing that's funny is that they doubled down on that so hard that eventually they hurt their conference enough to where they had to leave. They needed the SEC.
Right.
So the SEC has always worked in Congress with each other to grow together, and they've had strong leaders that have kind of made that happen. Georgia comes in complaining about something, Alabama comes in complaining about something. If it's just those two, if LSU and Florida and Tennessee on the other side of it, it's we're going to settle this like gentlemen, and behind closed doors.
There's a rising tide lifts all boats sort of thing.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, it was just Texas was fire the cannons at them.
I don't like these other boats.
Yeah. These are, ew, gross.
Yeah. Stop it
Yeah.
with that. Would you call that a boat?
Yeah. Let's get real.
That was the difference. And now Texas needs that, right? Because they can't grow their brand to their full power without being in the SEC. But the reason they can't grow their brand to the full power without being in the SEC is they worked so selfishly in the Big 12 that it
Actively tanking the value of whatever this is.
It was just like, it's the snake that eats itself,
Yeah.
kind of thing. When we come back, Texas A&M had a 12-year head start in the SEC to make themselves better than Texas. I would say in football. We're just talking about football.
Yeah.
Everything else fluctuates like normal. But in football, which is the most important thing to Aggies, even above oxygen.
Maybe not oil.
Yeah. Maybe not oil. Oil and football are linked.
Yeah.
But they failed miserably because they had a 12-year head start while, like we just said, Texas is undermining their own conference and hurting themselves in the process and really down for a long time. They could not get out of their own way. And then A&M.
Some would say 10 of those 12 years.
Pretty much, yes.
Yeah.
Pretty much. That was how it went. And then they didn't capitalize enough. We'll talk about that next. This is 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome back to the Triple Option. Paul Catalina, Royden Ogletree, and Royden. Before the break, we were talking about how A&M squandered their 12 years, not 2 years.
It's crazy it's been that long.
12-year run-up in the SEC to build themselves into a power. Now, I've repeated this theory over time, I think, with you, is that A&M messed up when they went to the SEC. Instead of just being A&M, the attitude that they had with more money and more exposure, they tried to be Bama, LSU, and Texas to some extent. Like, they tried to be something they were not.
Big spenders.
Yeah, no, you can still be big spenders, but, like,
what do you mean? The attitude in that it's like we're the gritty, hard-nosed, beat you up.
Yeah. They left that behind, and they were trying to be like, well, they've got Lamborghinis, we've got Ferraris. You know, what's the difference? You know, that's not you kind of have to, everybody has to be their own thing. You know, they lost, I think, who they were. And they decided like, oh, well, we're in the SEC, so we're going to be as good as Georgia and Alabama and Florida. Well, no. You know, like, they have all this stuff that you guys don't have. When you get that, you can be that. Now, Garrett, you're an SEC fan.
I am.
And you're an SEC fan that doesn't care for the Aggies.
Correct.
And now really doesn't care for the Longhorns, and they've been in the conference for 36 hours,
Correct.
37 hours. So I know that from other SEC fans, they were happy to have A&M in the league. It was kind of a cool thing.
Right.
But there is this whole thing of where A&M was kind of like, well, I mean, let's do something first before we start claiming we're going to win the SEC West. Now, part of that got accelerated by the fact that year one, Johnny Manziel wins the Heisman Trophy.
Right. And then Missouri also wins they
went to the
East.
championship.
Yeah, they went to the
East,
championship.
Yeah.
I think A&M went in there, and you got Johnny. You got all this attention that you haven't really ever had. I mean, realistically. And then you were out of Texas's path. And I think they kind of I wouldn't say necessarily forgot about Texas because they're always in the back of their mind, but they weren't something that they had to deal with on a regular basis. And then I think that they kind of got, I don't know if it's lazy or content or something, but they got a little too comfortable for their britches. And then when the move came in and Texas came over to the SEC, like they realized it was over. So they completely squandered everything because I think they got too complacent and comfortable that they finally got away from the team they've been running from their entire existence.
Yeah, absolutely. So it is.
Aggie will say that they're not worried, but it's just,
I mean,
the I'm not worried shirt, I'm not worried about Texas shirt is answering a lot of questions asked by the shirt.
Well, now, I mean, look,
your baseball coach just left
last week. You saw and that was a very calculated move on many fronts from Texas. That was, to me, I do think that Chris Del Conte saw a situation where he's like, oh, yeah, guess what? I know that you guys have spent these 12 years pretending you don't care. We're going to prove that wrong right now.
I think you care a lot. In fact.
Yeah. So if you don't care about us and you don't care about anything and you think you'd be good despite of it, let's just take your baseball coach, who happens to be my best friend. And I have no problem.
The cope online was unbelievable.
Well, and
Twitter's not a real place. I keep having to say that to myself all the time. But if people were half as mad in real life as they were on Twitter, there is some vitriol out there in the world.
It's good. And look, here's what I believe ultimately, and maybe I'm too optimistic. This works out in the long run for everybody because if Jim Schlossnagle, even as successful as he was, didn't really want to be there, then this was eventually going to go down. Like, as good of a coach as he is, if he was always thinking about, like, man, I really would.
What could have been at Texas?
What could have been, like, if Chris Del Conte just said, like, you know what, like, he's there, $3 million is not what I want to spend on baseball right now to buy out a coach, and, we really like the guy from Alabama, or we're going to try to get Tony Vitello, we'll try to do all that. Like, that to me, wouldn't have been that, but this was a unique situation where he knew that he'd get his best friend, and they talked about it for months, in spite of what they'll tell you. Oh, no. It was just overnight, just kind of happened. And yeah, no, that's not how it goes.
Right.
And pretending like it was that, to me, was the Jim Schlossnagle's response to the reporter, and then them pretending afterwards it was like, no, this just happened so fast. It was like, no, I don't think that's how it was. And look, I know some of those coaches were clearly uncomfortable with it because they just brought one of them back as the head coach. That picture was 4 guys who were like,
everything's fine and good.
Why'd you take our picture? Like, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Just
thanks for letting me be.
Yeah. That was weird. So, and look, you're only little brother if you let them tell you are. And A&M's been fighting that for the entirety of the rivalry. And look, I remember when I went on my tour at Texas A&M when I was a high school student thinking about going there. And one of the things that A&M baked into its fabric is they don't like that University of Texas is the University of Texas because technically A&M is 2 years older. Whatever it is. They're a little bit older.
Then take the name.
Well, but they were a land-grant college, and so all the land-grant colleges were A&M. That's just what they were.
I get it. I'm just saying.
But yeah, exactly. So, but it was...
In fact, Baylor could be the University of Texas if we want to get into the semantics.
Yes. So I remember even thinking about that the student tour guide said that, and I was like, that's dumb. I was like, that's just dumb. Thinking in my head, that's dumb. And at that point, I wanted to go nowhere more than Texas A&M because my dad and all my family had gone there. It was baked into my very personality. Mm-hmm. You can ask anybody who grew up with me. I was, especially in South Florida, I was quite an outlier, But, because I had an Aggie dad, that's what I wanted. But I remember even then thinking, like, oh, that's not a good idea. The second thing that happened was they're like, oh, we have non-air conditioned dorms, and if you get in late, you'll be there. I'm like, it's 1997. What are you doing?
That should be illegal.
This wasn't 1957. 1997.
Suffering for the brand.
I don't think I'd ever been in a building without air conditioning before. Or if I, not like a business building or a school building.
A place where they house teens.
And I grew up in, this is where you're going to have to sleep. And apparently with the windows open, no matter what.
Well, when I knew it was, and Texas has their faults too and whatever, their song is. But when I knew it was all a sham, the Saw Varsity's horns off thing.
It's such a thing. Like, well, look, and Texas says in goodbye to A&M.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So they both had their things where I'm like.
They sing about each other.
Yeah, y'all really don't care about each other that much, right?
Exactly.
Oh, we don't care about what's going on down there.
But
you sing it every day.
Yeah.
When you're playing Georgia.
But
what does that mean?
And look, as a person who follows A&M closely even to this day. Now, if anybody, and I'm asked this question often, and I was a couple weeks ago, they asked if A&M and Florida State played in the College World Series final, who are you cheering for? And I went, well, much to my father's dismay, I'm cheering for Florida State.
The one I'm still paying money to.
The one that I went to that gave me my education that, is now my whole personality.
Yeah.
That's the one that I want to win.
Mm-hmm.
The one that I did that. Now, if A&M won that theoretical matchup, I would be less sad if it was somebody else.
Right.
But that's it. I'm still going to be sad. I'll just be like, oh, well, a win for the people I love, but doesn't mean like I'm happy about it. And so knowing I'm saying all this to give you my Aggie street cred, like my like my where I came from.
It's a long and
so I know how these people
feel. A long list
because I felt like that at points in my life. And I would say this: if you're an Aggie and you look at yesterday of Texas coming into the conference, and you look at the 12 years you had. If you were anything other than disgusted with the way that your football team went and did not get that toehold, because not only that, the rules changed so that Texas, it benefits everybody the same if you have the resources, but particularly a school like Texas, when you hire a guy like Steve Sarkisian, who's making good decisions for the program and knew how to build an SEC team because he'd been there and he did it. And then you had Jimbo Fisher, who knew how to build an SEC team, but not necessarily how to run an SEC team.
Right.
Like he knew how to, because all the guys he had, everybody wanted them, right, Garrett?
Yep.
Everybody wanted A&M's roster. Everybody would have killed for it. The thing is that, and I know there are a lot of people going, well, then why weren't they any good? Because of Jimbo.
Because he couldn't run it.
Because of Jimbo. Because Jimbo Fisher could not, see the forest through the trees of, hey, maybe the plays I ran at LSU in 2007 don't apply in 2017 or 18 or 19 or 20 or 21. Like, maybe they've got film on me. It's it was flat out, and here's where Jimbo failed A&M. Jimbo flat out did not respect the other coaches in the league.
Including one he worked for.
Yeah, he did not respect them. And if he ever gets back into coaching, that's something he needs to do. As a matter of fact, when he was really good, he certainly respected them. But when he decided that my system works, and if you're running it right, it will work, well,
Except
you're blaming the players, and two, you're saying my system is invincible. I don't care who's across from me.
Except for when you don't have a quarterback like Jameis Winston, but that's neither here nor there.
Good point.
Jimbo's we've talked a lot about the NCAA football game, but Jimbo's plus 10 on the personality recruitment meter and -5 on the scheme meter, where it's just hey, I got this 5-star wide receiver. What do you want him to do? Go route. Only go routes.
Yeah.
It's just.
No,
I think. Well, I saw a video about this. I think it was. Is it Billy Lucci that works for Texags?
Yeah.
He was talking about. I believe it was on the SEC podcast, and it just popped up on my feed. It was about when Kyler and Kyle Allen both left at the same time. And that's kind of like a watershed moment for
that moment.
That feels like the watershed moment for when Texas A&M kind of got out ahead of their skis and lost the reins a little. I know I'm mixing metaphors, but like they really got over their skis on how much hubris we can have with bringing in these players, but then not being able to scheme around them. You know what I'm saying?
So Kyler Murray and Kyle Allen moment. Garrett, I want you to chime in on this as well.
Okay.
If you want to talk about the moment where they did not, because Kyler Murray was them capitalizing on Johnny Manziel, and the fact that his father put A&M on probation in 1986 and kind of owed them a little bit, kind of owed him a little bit.
Right.
He was, and Kevin Murray was a great A&M quarterback, but he got him put on. He got him in trouble. He was in the Jackie Sherrill years, got him in a little trouble. So
that happens to the best of us.
If your spawn, somebody you saw, sire, since House of the Dragon is back, we'll say sire. If you sire a quarterback who's going to be a Heisman Trophy winner, I think in the tradition of royalty in Game of Thrones,
right,
you offer that son back to
he gets the throne.
Yeah, he gets the throne. And Kyler went they pushed the envelope with A&M and that recruiting a
Didn't
little
they
bit by
guarantee him the playing time and stuff?
Going to Texas and posting the jersey and all those things, and sharing tweets with the defensive backs and guys that he was hanging out with, and so all that happened, and it created a weird situation. But when you have Kyle Allen and him both leaving at the same exact time, essentially
before
on the
the
same
bowl
day.
game.
Before the bowl game, before all that. Look, Jimbo Fisher, or I guess Kevin Sumlin. I'm sorry, not Jimbo Fisher, because that wasn't a Jimbo thing. That was Kevin Sumlin. But Sumlin was only given a lifeline because of Trevor Knight needing to go somewhere. Yep. If Trevor Knight had decided, well, I'm not going to use this last year of eligibility. I don't want to grad transfer. I'm just going to move on with my life.
Right.
Then you'd have been screwed. I mean, he would really would have been screwed. They'd have been pretty bad. They would have had no answers. But to lose two guys who are NFL, I know that Kyle Allen isn't ripping it up. NFL,
but he's now a 7-year NFL vet.
He's a 7-year NFL vet. That's a guy who you can win games with at college.
Right.
And so to lose them on the same day, that was the moment that they probably fell behind in this 12-year push that they never got back, because the guy they hired was supposed to be this big QB guru, because he won with Matt Mock, he won with Matt Flynn, he had Jamarcus Russell, he had E.J. Manuel, he had Christian Ponder, he had Jameis Winston. He has got this streak of quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So then they're like, well, we're not going to lose a Kyler Murray again. No, you're right. They were right. They were never going to lose a Kyler Murray again because you were never going to get one.
Exactly.
Because they never did. Right, Garrett?
No, I mean, they really haven't. You got lucky. You got Max Johnson over for a little bit from A&M, and then now he hit the portal. You brought in some other people. It just was never able to click. Carter Wigman, I think you have a lot of potential there. We just haven't been able to see what he's capable of at his full potential.
Haynes King is now an all-ACC player.
Yeah.
How did that happen? He didn't look like he could throw a pass downfield.
Well, I mean, he was getting hurt a lot.
He was getting hurt. Yeah, he's 175 pounds. But, he's now what? He had 23 touchdowns and a lot of interceptions. He
balled out last year.
But yeah, he looked like a viable quarterback. I wish you still had him on your roster. I think that A&M, it's an avalanche of a lot of things. But you have the best season that you've had in the SEC your first year. It's like that. And you're winning with Big 12 players. I've always found that hilarious.
Yeah.
Sans Johnny Football, but he was recruited to play in the Big 12.
Mike Evans was also people talk about Johnny, and Johnny deserves.
He owes a lot of money to Mike Evans.
Even Swoops before that.
Yeah.
What wasn't that his name? Number 25?
No, Swope. Ryan Swope.
Yeah.
Yeah. His younger sister was one of our interns back in the day. She's a Baylor guy, but Ryan Swope was.
He was cold, man.
Yeah,
I mean, 20 touchdowns one year.
Yeah, he got drafted and would have if not for concussions, probably would have had a nice little NFL career. So.
Yeah, I think I always found that funny that they won with Big 12 players, them in Missouri, the first year that they went into the SEC, and then
the talent differential wasn't quite as big then.
Right.
that was the shift, and
I can't point to one specific thing of why A&M didn't make it other than not being able to capitalize on talent. And maybe that's not having the right coach in there at the right time, or maybe taking a swing on who will be a Hall of Fame coach that just didn't have it anymore. I mean, you can look at a lot of these things like Kevin Sumlin getting out ahead of his skis, which we've said, is all of these things. But yeah, the hubris of going in there, I think hubris is the death of a lot of things.
Yeah.
But like, it can really be the death of a program when saying, well, we deserve to be here. We are going to run this now, only to not capitalize on what you had. I don't know what that amounts to, like what that tangibly is.
Yeah.
But you know it when you see it, so it's really weird.
let's just say they did wind up to keep Kyler Murray.
Right.
Now, does Kyler Murray win the Heisman like he does under Lincoln Riley at OU?
Probably not, because he wasn't in the same system.
Yeah, probably not, but they're going to win a lot more games with Kyler Murray
Absolutely.
in college than they would have, otherwise, right? So
the hubris of taking 2 5-star quarterbacks at the same time. So,
yeah. But I mean, a lot of people do that. But the ability not to keep either of them, to make them both so mad at you that they both left at the same time, knowing, like, both of them knowing that, like, well, if he leaves, I'm the starter.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the moment right there, because say they're not say they're 8-4 one year with Kyler Murray, then they're 10-2, then they're 10-2, and then like, they're kind of in it and they're building. They're not national championship caliber yet, but people are like, oh snap, Kyler Murray, like, that's fun. I'm going to do that. And then Kevin Sumlin's probably, the whole thing with Jim, like, it's all probably different.
Yeah.
If that thing goes, because Kyler Murray was the kind of player who was exciting and all of that.
He's the best football player in Texas high school football history.
Yeah, I mean, he's like
The biggest winner, anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So you got that moment, and look, even if Kyler Murray goes to Oklahoma and continues to show out, and Kyle Allen just does the same thing,
right?
Like, then all right, because you're like, all right, well, even with Jimbo had to build up from Ponder to Manuel to then Jameis.
Mm-hmm.
That was his build. That probably would have coincided with the coach coming in and building, because Kevin Sumlin's problem wasn't offense; it was defense and conditioning. Like, no 700-point lead was safe in College Station. Like, the defense was gassed all the time.
There's a lot of the same handshake agreements going up and down Highway 6, it feels like, between Baylor and A&M.
So, like,
you don't play defense either? High five, brother. Like,
yeah, here we go. So
I don't know. You do have to be sick if you're I know we're going long on this topic, but you do have to be sick if you're an A&M fan if you all of a sudden are sitting here being like, we didn't win it once.
Yeah.
We didn't win the SEC one time. In the time that, granted, Texas only won the Big 12, one time in that thing? So, give and take there. But it's like, all of a sudden, this person who you say, oh, we don't really care about, is now objects in the mirror may be closer than they appear, and they are sprinting up behind you to come and, one, encroach on your recruiting that has been so good for the last few years, but two, encroach in the domination of Texas, whatever that means to you, because they won't care what's going on this side with TCU and Baylor and Houston and like UTSA. They'll just say that doesn't matter. But just to have that with Texas being on the upswing and now you're starting with a new coach, you have to be furious, even though you'll say that you don't care about them or whatever. Exactly. Even if they'll say, oh, we're not little brother, we don't care. I know when my rivals are doing something great, I am furious.
Yeah.
I hate that it happened to you. I would have rather it been me.
Yeah. So the all Big 12 teams are out, and we'll take a break here. I don't want to go through the team. We'll do that in an hour. But the all Big 12 standings are out. Preseason standings, and Royden, did you find any?
This is the media poll, correct?
Yeah, the media poll.
Yeah.
Did you find any surprises?
Just looking at, I looked at it this morning, but just kind of looking at it at a glance, a lot less love being given to Texas Tech than I thought would be. Mm-hmm. Granted, they 6-5 has been their ceiling the past couple of years, or 6 and 7, I guess, has been their ceiling the past couple of years. So, but people in the media especially seem to love Joey McGuire and what they're building out there. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of hype around that recruiting classes that they've had. And granted, maybe it's in a couple of years thing, Texas Tech will be really good. So them being placed 9th is really interesting to me. There's a lot more love in the college football game for Colorado than there is in the media that covers the Big 12.
Yeah.
They're at 11th. I don't know. If BYU isn't better than 13th in the league, you got some kind of like rearranging to do there at BYU.
Yeah,
right.
I don't think that's going to happen next year, but I think it would happen the year after. I think Lana Sataki's got some runway to do that. But okay, so here are I'll go side by side. They had the media votes: Utah number 1, Kansas State number 2. I had those flipped. Media: Oklahoma State number 3, Kansas number 4. I had those flipped. So, close. Arizona number 5. There we go. That one's right. I had Iowa State 6th. I had UCF 6th, Iowa State 7th, West Virginia 8th, and Texas Tech 9th. And it was Iowa State, West Virginia, UCF, Texas Tech in that order, which I don't – I nailed 9, and then 6, 7, and 8 are a different jumble, which I think those are all going to have the same record anyway.
Probably.
Whoever
it's
that
a lot
is,
of a coin flip. A lot of variance in there. You're expecting Garrett Green to maybe take a leap or not. If that
but whoever, to me, in the 6, 7, 8, 9 range, teams are probably all going to have the same record. Whoever they are. Even if it's not those teams.
Those are also the disruptors. Those are the ones that can shake the things up at the top.
Yeah, exactly. TCU at 10, I had that the same. They have Colorado at 11. I have Baylor at 11. They have Baylor at 12. I have Houston at 12. They have BYU at 13. I have Houston at 13. They have Cincinnati at 14. I have Arizona State there. They have Houston at 15. I have BYU at 15. They have Arizona State 16th, and I have Cincinnati 16th. So
no love for Cincy, huh?
I just got to see it. And again, this is –
Corleone's gone too, so –
yeah, Corleone, is out for a while.
Yeah.
And we'll see because of this blood clot issue. Hopefully, that gets sorted out because he's a very exciting player.
I think the Utah number 1 thing, while I do think they have the most talent maybe in the Big 12, it's a lot of faith that their quarterback is going to be healthy. A lot of faith. Because their quarterbacks, no offense to them, stunk. It was hard to watch their quarterback play last year. And in fact, it's almost like they would have won way more games if they had a viable quarterback. Mm-hmm. It is really, really putting a lot of pressure on Cam Rising, thank you, that he is actually going to have 2 healthy working legs. Mm-hmm. So I kind of agree that Kansas State, while they don't have they have to answer also their own questions at the quarterback position a little less so, but I don't know. That may be a really interesting down to the wire run there for both of those teams. Yeah. But I do kind of think that it is Kansas State and Utah, a sort of significant gap, and then Oklahoma State, Kansas.
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I my first team and their first team as far as offense only lines up: Ollie Gordon, Teteroa McMillan, Brent Keithy. And I think the offensive line is essentially the same, more or less. No, it is and it's not. They do all offensive linemen. I honestly voted left tackle to right tackle,
right?
Because you can't play with 5 tackles. You can't play with 5 centers. You can't play with 5 guards. Some people can do things and some people can't. And to throw OL out there to me is.
That's like the positionless All-NBA voting that they do now, where it's just 5 centers.
Yeah, I hate it. Okay, look, if a guy is, if all the left tackles are on the same level, we're going to have to pick one, okay? We're just going to have to pick one. We can't put it all out there, I don't.
But I like left tackles. They're big.
I don't like that at all, but.
I know we weren't going to go in depth into the first team all selection, but I just have to say for like my Baylor fans out there, and I know there are a lot of you like watching the streams usually on this particular YouTube channel. Big yikes, guys. I know the media polls for
TCU wasn't on there either.
Yeah, I know the media polls for players. Players is a little more indicative because they kind of know who's going to be good. As a team as a whole, you know, the rankings can mean nothing really coming out. Having 0 players on all first team means that people have scoured your roster and cannot find one player, not Cam Jenkins, not one player that is good enough to compete at that level. That sucks. It sucks for the players too that are watching this and like, or not watching this, but looking at those things and saying like, I mean, I'm as good as those guys. Why I'm not on there? But like, a message to the Baylor coaches: you gotta start getting higher rated players and recruits.
I did vote for Richard Reese as the kick returner, although apparently he's not going to do that this year.
Yeah.
Why? What? That was the 2 touchdowns that he scored last year.
Yeah. No, I
don't. I just look, and yeah, maybe players are better or worse than their recruiting rankings. We've known that for the history of since they've been doing recruiting rankings. We got to step it up. We got to do better, guys. What are we doing? Not one.
Well, TCU had the same thing. And
I don't care about TCU. I don't care about this one down on MLK. I don't care. Yeah, man, we get it. They're kind of the same. They're in the same boat right now with their programs. And it's like Baylor and TCU have had a handshake agreement most of their rivalry to be like, are you going to be good? Okay, we'll be good too. Are you going to be bad? We'll suck too. Like, I don't know how that works out, but I don't care about what they're doing up north. Be better here.
Kansas State?
Huh?
Does Kansas State have anyone?
Does
Arizona State have anyone?
Let's see.
You know that's actually fair. They don't either.
Yeah.
That's a lot of newcomers are in this as well too.
That's a quarter of the conference.
Yeah, I'm just complaining about Baylor because I'm mad online. I said I wouldn't do it, and now I am. I am very mad online about just the state of where they are right now. And look, I got to tell you, they may probably finish 13th or what were they, 12th? They may probably in fact, it's more than likely that they will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. By the way,
okay.
This is the first time somebody's ever mentioned my Superman mousepad. Yes, I'm a big Superman fan.
Oh, they haven't seen it.
No, he's. I'll tell you this. Here's why. When I was a kid, Superman was adopted, and I was adopted. And when I was very little, I thought eventually. When I was like 4 years old, it was like, yeah, I know you said I'm from Memphis, but like Krypton, right?
Right, yeah.
We're talking Krypton, right? Like, you don't want to tell me because I'm young, I get it.
Memphis, Krypton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then like the first time I fell off a trampoline and like bruised myself, I was like, crap.
Yeah, when I broke my arm when I was 9, I realized I didn't have superpowers.
Yeah. When I jumped on the trampoline, I just jumped to normal height and didn't like fly off and like, and then like wind up in the Himalayas like young Superman always does. Like, what? What happened? How do I get home?
My superpower, easily breakable boy.
Yes. Yeah.
He's not elastic. He breaks in two. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It takes 6 months to put him back together.
Yeah.
Are they going to make a good Superman movie? Is James Gunn going to do it?
Oh, yeah. I think so.
You think so?
Oh, I trust him.
Okay. Because they haven't done one in 20 years.
Longer than that.
So.
Longer than that since.
I secretly like Man of Steel, but
I like Man of Steel. It was good.
But that one they made in 2006 is atrocious.
Yeah.
And since they haven't made a great one since the Christopher Reeve movies.
Well, since the second Christopher Reeve movie.
Yeah.
Superman 4 is one of the worst ever.
Is that the one where he gets drunk?
No, that's Superman 3.
Okay.
That's the one in Superman 3. He's not drunk, per se. He's drinking king.
Just at a bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, they flubbed that whole thing. It was very bad.
I'll tell you this.
It also has the most terrifying villain scene of anything. I was 5 years old when I saw that movie, 6 years old. And I don't know if you remember, the lady gets sucked into the big. Garrett, you seen Superman?
I gotta tell you, I don't.
She gets so they build this supercomputer. Lex Luthor's not even the bad guy, but they build this supercomputer, and there's this lady who's like the bad guy's sister or something the whole movie, and she gets sucked into this supercomputer and then becomes this
Sentient being.
yeah, and it's freaky, man. Watch it now.
Then you go back and watch it, and it's just some dude in a.
No, you just look
I am now
honestly,
AI.
Look it up, the Superman 3 end scene, and it will haunt your dreams even as an adult.
Ask me
It is
what
so
recipes
creepy.
to put into ChatGPT.
It is so creepy, so creepy, so creepy. Ah.
The problem is, we're going. But the problem is that the Superman problem is that he's just better than every. It's like Georgia football; they're just better than everybody else. So it's there's no stakes.
Yeah, well, they're that's just on the fact that they don't do the good villains.
Yeah,
Or they do. Lex Luthor's a great villain, but he always needs some kind of help. So he's always you got to pull in somebody like Brainiac, or they just keep kind of running back the same.
We
thing.
need Kentucky to pull an upset here.
Yeah, exactly, absolutely. All right, when we next see you will be an hour from now. And we have Tim Healy, voice of Arizona State, Jeremy Branham from Houston, the sideline reporter, off the radar, Brian Jensen, voice of Texas Tech football, and the lovely and talented John McClain, the Ariana Grande of Hall of Fame sports reporter.
Sure.
I don't know. I don't think he would. I don't think that's a proper thing.
The Dua Lipa of sports reporters. John McClain.
You know what? That's not big. He's the Taylor freaking Swift of Hall of Fame reporters. Taylor, in his community, he's revered like Taylor Swift.
To some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's all coming up in an hour. We'll see you then. Hope you like the new set. Thanks to Jack. Bye.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple